Talk about Eskom, as I mentioned just a little while ago. The power utility is now looking to appoint advisors to help it unbundle itself or divide itself into 3 units. The move will see the utility separating into the units for distribution, transmission, and of course the generation part of it. It's aimed to help overcome its massive debt problems and maybe make it more efficient. I wonder what Chris Yelland, energy analyst, thinks about that. You know, Chris, good afternoon. Welcome to the Media View. A couple of months ago, I interviewed Mr. Andre de Ruyter, and among other things, we're speaking about this whole process to unbundle Eskom into those 3 units. And he said, yeah, the process will continue. But it's been 2 years or more in the making. Then they're looking for advisors now. Is this process unfolding as it should, or is it taking too long?
Well, it is unfolding, and it is unfolding slowly, I'm afraid. So there are people that believe it could be and should be and has to be speeded up. Certainly, we have seen the separation of generation, transmission and distribution within Eskom as divisions within Eskom, even having their own board. But now comes the more complicated stage of separating them into individual legal entities or companies that are subsidiaries of Eskom Holdings. And that is going to require, I think, some financial advisors, and this is what I think Eskom are going out for inquiry for. They have to do this in terms of their procurement processes. And these will be really of financial advisors and legal advisors for the process of the unbundling into separate legal entities.
And I guess,
at the same time, there are other...
Sorry, Chris, before you tell us about the other stuff, I was just thinking now, as you were saying, that one of the issues would be you had one big company and it assumed some liabilities as one entity, including its huge debt book that it's got, plus it's got assets. So how are you going to be dividing them? All those are going to be issues if they're going to be standalone legal entities under the mother body, so to speak.
That's exactly it, Dan. How you allocate Eskom's debt to these 3 operating companies, or do you hold this debt in the holding company itself, are very complex issues, and the way you treat lenders is very important. They have to be treated equally and fairly. You can imagine in a business like Eskom, with 3 of these divisions wanting to become 3 independent companies, 2 of these companies, I would say, are rather toxic, and 1 is rather good business. And nobody wants to hold debt in the toxic parts of the business. So if you were to look at generation, it is heavily indebted, very capital-intensive business, and it's got old power plants that are performing rather badly. The distribution business is also not a good business because a lot of its customers, 50% of its customers, are municipalities, and many of them are in very poor financial shape and are defaulting on payments. But the jewel in the crown, of course, is Eskom Transmission. It employs few people, it doesn't use nearly as much capital, and it's performing technically pretty well. So that is why they are not, you might call, equal status businesses, and therefore the allocation of debt and overheads and assets is a complex process that requires a lot of experience, financial experience about how to handle this.
Yeah. So, Chris, very briefly, finally, I mean, we should not expect this to be done and dusted in the short to medium term. It's going to take Andre de Ruyter and his team, plus all kinds of advisors, quite some time.
Yeah, so the first step in this unbundling process is going to be Eskom's transmission business. As I say, transmission business is considered to be the good part of Eskom's business. And the target is to try and have this as a separate business, as a separate company, a separate legal entity by the end of this year, end of 2021, which is, I think, an ambitious target. And that's what Eskom say they are targeting. The other 2 businesses will be separated into independent, well, not independent, but subsidiary companies within Eskom Holdings, by the end of 2022, a year later. So there is progress. It is ambitious. It has been going slower than wanted, but the most important step is transmission. It's really important to have transmission, at least to the market, seen to be independent company that's got independent management and not part of Eskom, although it will still be a subsidiary of Eskom, and that's the tricky part. But to have an independent grid company is very, very important going forward.
Thank you very much, Chris Yelland, as usual. I appreciate your insights. Energy analyst Chris Yelland there, as we unpack what the meaning of it all is going to be, and he's emphasizing rather the importance of the transmission part of the new Eskom going into the future. That's going to be in 3 areas. That's going to be transmission, generation, and distribution.